Now can people hear me? Ah, there we go. Okay. So what I was saying as people were coming in, somewhat ironically now, is that Lent claimed my old PS5, so this is a new one. And so it hypothetically had imported all of the settings. I was saying I hope there aren't any snags. And then it turned out the microphone wasn't working. That being a snag. Okay, let's adjust. Lower some of these volumes a little bit. Maybe that's my voice. Is that better? In terms of the volume of my voice versus everything else. Okay. I'll roll it down even a little more then. Okay. Yes, now we're going to slowly pop bubble wrap. Okay. So yeah, so new PS5, hypothetically a better one, being newer, more advanced. Okay, well, I'm not going to fiddle with it anymore, because I have people telling me it's better now, that the music mix is good now, and I have other people saying they can't hear me. So we're just, this is how it's going to be tonight, I guess. I'm just going to decide settle the unicorn is trolling. Yes, everyone is doing well. The dogs are well. I am well. Well, I've turned down the in-game volume so that. Well, I fiddled all I could fiddle with the settings, so sorry. I don't know if this will turn my volume up for this or not. Let's try. Did that make me any louder? Okay. I have turned down all of the game sound by 20%. I have turned up my mic volume by 20%. So this is how it's going to be. I'm not going to spend an hour fiddling with it. That's like too much. I'll try and experiment with it a little bit more next time. But people are telling me they can hear me, so. It's like I'm fisticuffs here. I can't hear out my left ear. So, yes, I will just speak like this. Oh, now we got ads. But no, other than that, and having to adjust these related settings, all is well. speak as if I am unable to modulate the volume of my voice. The hardest I have ever laughed. I don't know in my whole life, but recently, the hardest I have laughed. What is the name of that show? There was this obscure, like, weird show on Apple TV Plus. What's the name of it? Called The Big Door Prize. That was the name of it. The Big Door Prize. It ran for 2 seasons. The second season was not as good. But there's one particular episode in the first season of The Big Door Prize on Apple TV Plus. There's one particular episode where at the high school they have this tribute for this student who had died. And there is a moment in that context which is the hardest I have laughed at any time in recent memory. To the point that, like, Trisha was in the other room and it startled her and the dogs. So, yeah. That's the hardest recently. There we go. Did that help a lot? Okay. Okay. So now, the ads having ended, and that being better, I'll do my spiel the one time for the stream, and that is, if you don't want to see those ads, I don't ask for people's money, but if you have Amazon Prime, you get a free Twitch channel subscription every month. And so you could use that free Twitch channel subscription to subscribe to this channel at no cost to you, and you will see no further ads. So, yeah, you can get rid of them that way. You can point people to, if you go to Peter Brown's biography of St. Augustine, he talks about it in there and has it documented. St. Augustine's later repudiation of De Trinitate. I have listened to Dream Theater, and the lengthy Dream Theater song was one of the highlights of Guitar Hero World Tour. Speaking of which, Guitar Hero is coming back. I don't know if you guys saw. Yes, the Peter Brown biography of Augustine. So get ready for plastic peripherals to return. Guitar Hero is coming back. Yeah, that would be cool. I don't know how that'll work with the licensing. But the way they had that Tool experience, yeah, Guitar Hero Metallica was awesome. They had that Tool experience in World Tour. I want them to do a similar thing with Ghost in the new one. Because it'll be satanic and evil, but also campy. So. Yes, Trisha likes to make fun of the fact that when I played Guitar Hero drums, I would make stank face. How can you not like Ghost? They're goth Bon Jovi. So the only thing they've added to the game are a couple of skins. And their skins so there's this pirate Psylocke costume. Which explains the identity of this person here on the login screen this whole time. Frog Thor is... Well, Frog Thor is sort of in the game. He is in the store as an accessory for Thor. So he's sort of in the game. And then they did the moody, evil Captain America. The Black Knight Captain America. So that's all they've added since the last stream. There are 2 new skins coming out this week that are actually look really good. One is the Fear Itself Thing skin, which is like evil Asgardian Thing, and then the other one is Daredevil. They're doing Daredevil's black costume because the second season of Daredevil Born Again is coming out on Disney Plus in a couple of weeks. Those are coming out Thursday night. So the Antiochian Western Rite, at least, has had a service for the veneration of the pre-sanctified host. But yeah, so even Western Rite priests who are friends of mine feel this disturbing need to like argue for defend Western theology and Western usages.
I've seen wonders
that
out
clearly
there
aren't
in the
orthodox.
cosmos few humans will ever behold.
And I want to say to them, like, you know, we let you have your man doily,
The
we
battle
let you
starts
have
in
your
5, 4,
little black poofball
3,
hat. Like,
2,
we're leaving you alone.
1.
Don't push it.
Only one team wins this. Try to make it yours.
But yeah, I think they generally
They come from behind, but you can still turn this around.
There's a solution
They
for
generally,
every problem if you just look hard enough.
let's see if I can do that.
for this world. What a relief.
Okay, hopefully that'll work. If not, I'll take a look. So the
I'm more
You're in
resilient
the
than
lead
you
now. Try to make it last.
yeah, so I think it's because a lot of the Western right guys for some reason feel like they're always on the defensive. Like people are always trying to attack them and say they're not legitimate, and so they just gotta get defensive about everything.
But you can still turn this around.
And so yeah, everybody just needs to calm down. Big things happen.
Extermination!
I saw somebody asked about end times and World War III prophecies from like modern saints and elders.
I'm more resilient than you think.
So the thing you have to remember with those is that all of I'll see if I can settle it in tweet yet. You have to remember that all of the fathers throughout the history of the church all said lots of things, and all wrote lots of things, and all talked about lots of things, and preached lots of sermons, and most of them are lost to history. And so
The moon haunts you!
yeah, I'll adjust the audio more in So,
I'm more resilient than you think.
there's the vast majority of that has been lost to history. So, what we have,
Extermination!
the great saints and fathers and everything in the past, is the stuff that the Holy Spirit wanted us to have, right? And the stuff that vanished to history is the stuff that the Holy Spirit wanted
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
Still more work to be done.
wanted to have preserved for us to the present day. So when we're dealing with modern saints and elders, you have to remember that with them, even more of what they've said has been recorded, because we have yes, I've said several times I'm going to change the volume settings after the match.
Judge, jury, executioner!
I've got you.
We have even more of what they've said recorded because they're modern saints, and so we have all these means of recording the things they
There's
say,
still more work to be done.
and there's been no historical filtering. So you may notice if you even look at all those prophecies. Now you may just be getting fed excerpts in people's videos, where they're giving you little bits of this prophecy and little bits of that prophecy, and blah blah blah.
This is real firepower!
But if you go and read them all in context, a lot of those are like super detailed, and they don't agree with each other. So there's no way they can all possibly come true, sort of as written, right? And so some of them may not come true at all, and then they'll be forgotten in history. So I wouldn't.
Only 60 seconds left.
Some of them were those things like arguing about toll houses.
Extermination! The moon haunts you! Don't mess with the amazing
Another epic
So, waiting for some of the sound to be over. So yeah, some of those things and some of those prophecies will probably happen. A lot of them, maybe even most of them. Probably won't. Or at least won't in the literal way, right? That somebody might interpret them. And that's not a big deal. But I think overall getting too hung up on those things can be a distraction from what's actually important about the Christian life, just like arguing about getting super involved with the toll houses. Or getting super involved in any of those things where you're spending time, theorizing about stuff that isn't helping you repent of your sins, right? That isn't helping you strengthen your faith, right? It's interesting and it's curious, but a lot of it may not end up amounting to much. It's entirely possible that, the U.S. attacks on Iran will end in like a week or so. And that'll be it. Right? So yeah, and so that's I wouldn't spend a lot of time on those prophecies right now and trying to match them up with stuff going on in the news, because we've seen how that's gone for our Protestant friends in the past, and that's not well. So yeah, I wouldn't jump to conclusions. I mean, maybe a lot of those prophecies are gonna end up being true, but they're gonna end up being true 100 years from now. Twilight of the Idols is fine if you're gonna start reading stuff from Nietzsche. Like I think I said in a previous stream, pretty much everybody, if you take a course, starts with Genealogy of Morals. But I mean, that or Beyond Good and Evil are fine too. If you want to read Nietzsche. In terms of what's going to happen to the old Western Rite, I think it's going to end up dead, frankly. I mean, Roman Catholicism is currently doing everything possible to destroy the Latin Mass and get rid of it. So, there's that. And Protestant churches have mostly abandoned, just due to liberalism, and evangelicalism. They've gone one way or the other. They've either gone evangelical or they've gone liberal. In either case, their liturgies no longer exist for all intents and purposes. I mean, there'll be some Anglo-Catholics holding out for a long time within the Church of England, as long as they keep their heads down and don't cause too much trouble for the sort of ruling class within the Church of England. But I don't have a lot of hope for the Westerners sticking around, and I don't think it's going to stick around very long in Orthodoxy, to be honest either. Not because I think there's something innately wrong with it and it needs to be done away with, but just
I've seen wonders out there in the cosmos
you start a Western Rite
humans
church.
will ever behold.
Kids grow up in it. They go to college. They're Orthodox.
2,
there's probably not going to be a Western Rite church nearby, right? So they're going to end up going to the nearest Orthodox church, which is probably going to be Eastern Rite. They're going to meet people, get married, have kids, move somewhere. Probably going to be an Eastern Rite parish there too. You know, and so I don't think Western churches survive a whole bunch of generations. Even though I know plenty of good Western Rite priests in the Antiochian Archdiocese who are even friends. You know, I'm friends with them. I respect them. They're doing good work, good pastoral work. So I'm not down on it. I think realistically, it's not going to be here for another 100 years. I think 100 years from now, it's probably not going to be in Antioch. And I think there are going to be fewer and fewer new Western Rite parishes starting, because most of them get started from people coming from more traditional liturgical Protestant churches, frankly. That is, there are fewer and fewer of those for people to come from. There's going to be less and less demand for new Western Rite missions.
Tremble before Bast! The moon haunts you!
I'm more resilient than you think.
Lead them to Khonshu!
So, I think there's a lot of people talk about Plato and Aristotle as if they're this binary, like you're either a Platonist or an Aristotelian. There's a couple of issues with that. One is an ancient historical issue, which is the fact that ancient people didn't think there was that much difference between Plato and Aristotle. I mean, there are a few differences that they were aware of, because I mean, like Aristotle in a couple of places mentions differences he has, right? So he has a critique of Plato on a few points. So it's not that they didn't disagree at all, but the idea that they represented radical different perspectives, that's not how the original readers and scholars and students of Plato and Aristotle understood. Part of the reason for that is that we actually have only a fraction of Plato's works and Aristotle's works that have survived in the present day. For example, Aristotle wrote dialogues. We don't have a single one of them. All we have from Aristotle are his treatises. And most of those treatises aren't even real treatises. A lot of them, like the Deaconesses ethics and the Eudemian ethics, are actually his students' notes from his lectures.
I'm more resilient than you think.
Meanwhile, Plato, we know, wrote treatises. The way we know they wrote these things is that we have lists of texts from different ancient libraries that named them. And so we can say, well, we don't have that, we don't have that, we don't have that. If we had sort of their whole corpus in both cases, we might see why ancient people thought they were closer together than a lot of people talk about today. Right? But a certain part of Aristotle is picked up by Christian philosophy very early. To the point that when St. John of Damascus sets out to write his Fount of Wisdom, the first first section is his commentary on Aristotle's organon.
The moon.
Organon, it means instrument in Greek, and that's the term that's used to refer to certain works of Aristotle, his categories on interpretation, and the prior and posterior analytics, which is Aristotle laying out the use of different terms, Greek terms, philosophically, and then later theologically, in St. John's case. On interpretation is basically what we would call hermeneutics, how you read and interpret and understand texts. And then the prior and posterior analytics are the first kind of comprehensive logic text that we have. And so so those are kind of unavoidable. If you're going to do any kind of philosophy and theology, you have to understand Aristotle's organon minimally. That part of Aristotle is so basic to Christian theology that, you know, you hear about Aristotle coming back to the West during the Scholastic period and it having been preserved by the Arab commentators like Averroes and stuff. But the West had the organon. That part of Aristotle was never lost, even in the West, because it was so basic to sort of Christian theology. So a lot of the stuff
few humans will ever behold.
that a lot of the problems with Platonic metaphysics. When I'm talking about Plato brain, what I'm really going after is Platonic metaphysics, which,
Only one team wins this.
despite our Roman Catholic and Calvinist friends in particular, is really foreign to Christianity. And so having those presuppositions will sort of mess up where you're going. Aristotle's later stuff, like even Aristotle's physics and metaphysics. And by the way, Aristotle gives us the term metaphysics. Meta physiki in Greek means after the physics. So Aristotle's Metaphysics is the book he wrote after he wrote physics. And so it's metaphysiki, it's after physics. And so in it he talks about the nature of being itself, and so we get the term metaphysics from the title of his book on the subject. But his metaphysics, his physics, that kind of stuff is not particularly germane to Christian theology at all. His natural works, like on the parts and generation of animals and stuff, his medical stuff, his biological stuff, not only is all of that obviously outdated science, but it doesn't directly connect to Christian theology. Now, there were people who tried to, but that's because for them Aristotle was the medical understanding of the time. Right? So you get some weird stuff. Right? Like, Aristotle believed that women had more body heat than men, and that was part of the reason for their anatomical differences. And he thought that the reason women menstruated was that they had extra blood that was used as coolant, essentially, because they had more body heat. And so, sort of the extra blood hopefully no one sees this as overly crass. But essentially, he thought women menstruating was sort of like an oil change for a car. Obviously, we don't think that's true or accurate. And we would not try to mesh that with
There's still more work to be done.
any form of Christian theology having to do with any of the women in the Bible, but there are people who did in history. But not many now, right? So, like I said, Aristotle's organon is still critically important.
Judge, jury,
And Aristotle's physics and metaphysics and natural works have never been, the subject of significant integration into Christian theology in the same way. And so I don't feel any need to criticize that kind of
tremble before fast.
importation. Whereas with Plato, with Platonic metaphysics, that's still there, still has bad consequences. It still makes it harder for people to understand things. It turns some of them into Calvinists. So.
I'm more resilient than you think.
Yeah, so that probably over-answered that Plato-Aristotle question, but gave you some weird information you didn't want to know. But,
Tremble before fast.
Well, you can't expect it in them all.
I have no real thoughts on the old Russian rite. I've never been in an Orthodox context. I've never been part of any Russian or even Slavic tradition church, personally. And so I've never delved deeply into the whole Old Believers thing. So... in terms of understanding St. Gregory, Polemos, and Aristotle, I mean, the big thing there, right, and you can read David Bradshaw's Aristotle East and West, which is his doctoral dissertation, plus some articles he published on the topic. I mean, energeia, right, like the concept of the divine energies, energeia is a concept from Aristotle that was translated in the West as actus, and those two words are not really synonyms. And so that caused a fair amount of the problem. So, yes, it is true. In order to understand the Barlaam and St. Gregory Polemos debates, you do kind of need to know at least a little bit of Aristotle, at least in terms of that distinction. But yeah, you could read Bradshaw's book and get a really good orientation in that. There's a question how if Elizabeth and Mary are from different times.
I've seen wonders out there.
Tribes, how could they be? How could they be cousins? Well, tribes were reckoned through the male,
Starts in 5, 4, 3,
through the
2,
father.
1. Only one team
So,
wins this. Try to make it
Mary
yours.
being from the tribe of Judah meant that her father was from the tribe of Judah. And Elizabeth being a Levite meant that her father was
There's a
the
They
Levite.
come from behind, but you can still turn this around.
So by the time you get to the 1st century BC, which is when both the Theotokos and St. Elizabeth would have been born, the land divisions set out in the Torah are long, long, long in the past. And so the emphasis on marrying within your tribe had mostly gone away. And most of the tribes didn't exist.
I'm more resilient than you think. Quarterly, I'll back you up. I'll gladly take some protection.
Yeah, I know there have been some other questions, so feel free to read those. Is the sound finally straightened out? Are we good with the sound? I hesitate to ask. So, in Romans, the relationship between the idea of okay, I'll wait a second for the ads to engage. Okay, so in Romans, and really throughout St. Paul's writings, but in terms of understanding this in Romans, St. Paul believes that every person has a calling, and there are different layers to that, right? So, every Christian has a certain calling. Every Christian is called to live in a certain way, to do certain things, to not do certain things, to pursue certain things, right? He also sees, from reading the Torah, that the nation of Israel, and later Judah, had a particular calling that was different than the calling of all the other nations in the world. The other nations in the world had their own callings, right? But Israel and later Judah had a different calling in the world, and that's reflected in the fact that there were commandments that were given to everyone in the world, and there were other commandments that were given just to Israel. Right? Because they had a different calling, they received additional commandments having to do with fulfilling that calling. A big part of that calling was explicitly to be different than the other nations. Right? So that's two layers. But then St. Paul goes even further and argues that there is a personal calling. Right? That each person has a calling. He was called to be the apostle to the Gentiles, right? Not everyone was. But some people were called to be evangelists, some preachers, some teachers, right? He goes through this in like 1 Corinthians when he's talking about spiritual gifts, right? God calls different people to fulfill different roles and do different things, and he gives them different gifts in order to accomplish that, right? And so for St. Paul, when you put all those layers together, right, like the Christian layer, the national layer, the personal layer, you put all those together and you have the calling on a particular person. And then the commandments related to how they will fulfill that calling. And so, faithfulness then is your faithfulness in living out that calling in all of its layers. So, being a faithful Jew and being a faithful Greek did not look identical. But St. Paul will say that a Jewish person, right, finds salvation by being a faithful Jew, and a Greek person finds salvation by being a faithful Greek, right? The Greek person isn't supposed to try to become a Jew, and the Jewish person isn't supposed to try to become a Greek. Being a faithful man and a faithful woman looks a little different. One shouldn't try and become the other.
I've seen wonders out there in the cosmos. Few humans
being
will
a faithful
ever
Christian,
behold.
right, looks different than the way other people in the world live.
The battle starts in 5,
And if
4,
you're called in
3,
particular
2,
to be a teacher or
only
not,
one team wins
be ordained
this.
or not,
Try to make it yours.
to offer hospitality, whatever your gift is, right, whatever those things are, you want to be faithful to that and not try to, be one of the other things that someone else has been called to, out of envy or whatever else, right? So yeah, and see, if you understand that, part of what's lost when you don't understand that, part of what Protestantism, for example, is lost, is this is why they can't understand a lot of our monastic saints, right? So, like, they don't know what to do with, like, a St. Simeon
I'm
Stylites.
not ready to give up yet.
Right, he goes and sits on a pillar for years. They're like, what? So is everybody supposed to go sit and live on a pillar? No one else is supposed to go sit and live on a pillar. Just him. Right? Well, what, you have to do that to be saved? Well, no, he may have. If God called him to do that and he wanted salvation, he may have needed to do that in answer to God's calling on him to do it. But then you don't.
Put this to good use.
Right?
I'm not ready to give
That's
up
why
yet.
we have an understanding of those people. And that's the only way to make sense of all kinds of people in the Bible who have similar callings. Right? It's like Ezekiel gets told to just walk around naked. Well, what do you do with that? Unless you understand that, God is telling him to do this particular thing as a prophet. Right? He's not saying everybody should be a nudist.
I won't rest
Right?
until
He's,
it's solved.
Ezekiel should in this situation testify to this. Or Hosea being told to go and marry a prostitute. It's not saying everyone should go marry prostitutes. Right?
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
So, and on and on. Jonah getting told to go to Nineveh, right?
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
Yeah, so if you remember the, like becoming truly human curriculum, that phrase is the way to talk about finding salvation. You can put more particularity to it and say that salvation is you becoming the person God created you to be, in particular.
All right, that feels better.
I'm more resilient than you think.
Gambit never falls!
And that emphasis on the particular really runs afoul of Plato, right? Where particulars are bad and the additions are good.
I'm not ready to give up yet.
I think flashed off the screen right before I got it. I think it was how do you go about finding a good scholarly bibliography on something?
Armed and
That was the question.
dangerous!
And while I wait for that repost, current state of ancient Near Eastern scholarship. If you're not in an explicitly Old Testament related program, is good. If you're in an explicitly Old Testament related program, it's very bad. A good scholar related to a particular topic. Finding a good scholar.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
Yeah. So what you want to try to do is look for journal articles on the particular topic. On a particular topic. and look who gets cited in them a lot. Look at the citations in the academic journal article. And if you get 4 or 5 articles on a topic, and they all cite, 1 or 2 given people, right? Those are usually the top 1 or 2 people on that topic, or at least they were. They may have been the top couple of people last century, but they at some point at least have been the top couple of people. And then what you could do is you could go and look up that person or those couple of people's works, and then you look at the citations in their books and see who they're citing and quoting, and what articles and what books, and then you follow those. And so you can keep following that chain of citations to put together a pretty good bibliography on any given topic.
I've seen wonders out there in the cosmos few humans will ever behold.
Yes, with the A&E scholarship, to come back to that.
The battle starts in 5, 4.
So the problem
3,
is,
2,
if you're in an explicitly Old Testament program,
only one team wins this. Try to make it yours.
9 times out, there are a few good places. There are a few good places where you can go and study Old Testament that don't fall into one of these 2 traps. But the Scylla and Charybdis of Old Testament programs is almost all of them are either just there to prove that every word of the Old Testament is literally historically accurate, or to prove that not a single word of the Old Testament is literally historically accurate. They have one of those 2 agendas. And neither of those 2 agendas is really helpful for actually learning. Yes, it is because of modernism. And so the lib ones are a little worse in that, because they're starting off with nothing in the text is actually reliable in any way, you end up getting taught a professor's or a series of professors' theories on what quote-unquote really happened in ancient Israel, which are often based on about nothing, right? And so the positive stuff you get taught is mostly nonsense. The more evangelical type programs where they're trying to prove every word is literally historically accurate, I mean, you'll at least learn the text, and you'll learn at least some archaeology that sort of agrees with their point of view and their project. But a whole lot of theological interpretation, significance, liturgical use of a text, the history of its reading and interpretation throughout church history, all that stuff gets left on the table. They don't talk about that stuff at all because they don't care. It's not part of their project. So yeah, there are a few good Old Testament programs, but very few. Now, if you just go and sign up for like a PhD in Egyptology at the University of Kentucky, that's actually a very good program because there's no agenda. Nobody has like this burning agenda, because their dad was a pastor and was mean to them. Therefore, they have to disprove that Ramses the Great ever existed. Or you go into Syriology, or you go into Sumeriology, you're usually fine, right? Like, you're not gonna get any of that goofiness. If you're in an actual like Sumeriology program. Now, if you're in like a literature program, right? Like in reading the Epic of Gilgamesh in that context, then you're gonna get some raw craziness. For example, a friend of mine went to UCLA, and he had an ancient literature seminar his first semester. And the first thing they read in the ancient literature seminar was the Epic of Gilgamesh. And the TA who was teaching the class explained to them how the Epic of Gilgamesh is all a metaphor about abortion rights. So, yeah. But in actual Assyriology or Sumeriology program, you're not going to get nonsense. They're going to be focused on teaching you to read ancient languages and understanding the cultural context to read and interpret texts.
The other team is about to win.
Side with Proverbs 31 in what respect? Oh, what's his name? A guy just published his work. I don't know if it's a dissertation or what, but a guy just published his work on Saint Dionysius the Areopagite, arguing that it's first century. Not just second century, but first century.
Well, you can't expect them all.
I don't remember. I mean, this is really recent. This is like in the last couple of months. I think Ben at Cleave to Antiquity did a stream talking about it. I don't know if he was talking to him or just about his work. But that's research that's like just been published. So that's what you need to go to if you're going to be writing a dissertation about St. Dionysius. That's the cutting edge, newest thing. Yes, I'm a Reed Richards main in this game. So the
I've seen wonders
favorite
out there
Marvel
in the
character,
cosmos few humans
probably
will ever
Reed
behold.
Richards. Still,
The battle starts in 5, 4.
like when Reed Richards was being released for the game, right? Like
One team wins this.
I had kind of
Try
liked
to
the
make
game, but I
yours.
hadn't decided who I wanted to main. I was kind of playing Captain America, and I said, well, I want to main Reed Richards when he comes out, but we'll see if I like his playstyle. And then it turned out I did. So, Proverbs 31. The description of the virtuous woman is. I don't know that represents a side, right? Like I think that's
I'm not ready to give up yet.
describing a virtuous woman from the biblical perspective. In terms of her working, like women have worked pretty much throughout all of history. The idea of a nuclear family where the husband goes and works at the factory or whatever, and the wife stays home and raises the children is the product of the Industrial Revolution. That didn't exist beforehand. For the rest of human history, a post hunter-gatherer, right? Post hunter-gatherer. People were farmers, and women on farms did a lot of work. Not the same work the men did, but there was work that men did out in the fields, that supervised out in the fields. And by men, I mean fathers, uncles, sons, cousins, right, all the men, plus hired hands, did out in the fields. And there was work that the women, meaning grandma, aunts, daughters, moms, wives, right, did around the house. And by the house, I mean the whole household, right? Most people sewed their own clothes, right? Most people had small gardens where they grew a lot of the other things for their food, right? So there was the farm, you know, growing whatever. There was also, but you weren't going to eat just whatever that was. There would be private gardens with other vegetables and things, and herbs that made up the difference. Milk of the family cow, right? Things. A lot of those things are described in Proverbs 31. So, yes, being a virtuous woman, just like being a virtuous man, means sort of doing your part within the family and household faithfully and
Let the
well.
devil out! Let the devil out!
Yeah, so in terms of rural and urban settings, the main difference with ministry and stuff is just that there are sort of different, there are different structures to the community that the church is in. Not the church community, but the broader community the church is in. In terms of in rural settings, your neighbors are farther away from you geographically, but you actually usually know more about them than in urban settings, where everybody's piled on top of each other, but they don't know each other. In rural settings, the stores, even if they're chain stores or whatever, restaurants, you know, other things are run by people you know, worked out by people you know. So, you know, that restaurant or that bar or that grocery store or that department store is sort of part of the community. It sort of belongs to the community, right? Whereas you don't, in an urban setting, get like, oh, that's my Target. Right? That's our neighborhood Target, right? Like, people are sort of aware that the Target's owned by a corporation or a person who lives in some other part of town, or maybe some other city or other state. So, when you're doing any kind of ministry or evangelism in a rural setting, the first step is always that the people trying to do it have to really become part of the broader community. And then the church, as an entity, has to sort of become part of the community. There has to be a sense of kind of ownership and belonging, right? Oh, I know that church. I may not go to it, but yeah, those are those people, and I know this person who goes there. Yeah, and I met them at this, and they do that. Right? That's going to be the thing that connects people. And that's going to be the way you're going to be able to do outreach and stuff in a rural community. Whereas in an urban kind of setting, there's a lot less of that. There's a tendency for churches to get treated sort of like venues. Sort of, I'm looking for X. Is this the place where I can go and get it? Which helps things like mega churches, evangelical churches and mega churches, because they're kind of structured like that, right? They sort of, and I've been to these conferences and stuff, so they literally say, right, like you have to look at the people in the urban neighborhood where you plant the church as your customers. What do they want? We have to find out what they want. We have to give them what they want in terms of the style of worship, in terms of what you preach about, in terms of, right? So they can kind of, right, they can kind of suit themselves to that. And the Orthodox Church just can't. Right? The Orthodox Church has Christ. That's what we have to offer you. If you're not looking for Christ, there's not really a good reason for you to come to an Orthodox church. Right? Like, if you come for some other reason, cool, right? But you may be unsatisfied if you're not looking for Christ. And so that's why I think, as much as certain folks love to hate it, I think that's why orthodoxy on the internet is in large part what has helped produce the quote-unquote convert surge. Internet evangelism actually works better for orthodoxy in urban environments. In that you can talk about ideas. You can talk about concepts. You can give information. So I played in some chess tournaments in high school. I had a ranking at one point. I had a couple of trophies, but after that, I never spent a ton of time. My nephew was way more into it than I was. Oh, I just try to do 4-move checkmate on everybody. And if they know how to play chess, I thereby insult their intelligence and potentially throw them off their game. And if they don't, I beat them in 4 moves and they feel humiliated.
Grace us with victory. Judge, jury, executioner.
So the reason why you shouldn't use a concordance, not at all, but to do theology, is, be it Strong's or whatever, is that it causes people to assume that every word is a technical
Don't mess
term.
with the amazing Spider-Man.
Right? Meaning, every individual word in Greek or in Hebrew just has this one meaning everywhere that it's used. Either everywhere it's used by one author or everywhere it's used in the Bible. And so by just looking at all the usages, you can derive, okay, that's what this word means, or that's what it always means. And that's not really the way language works. Right? Like I could write a sentence in a book, or a paragraph in a book where I say, me and Mr. Green went golfing. We were out on the green. I made my putt, and he was green with envy. Right? And it's a perfectly coherent paragraph. Right? Perfectly coherent paragraph, and English speakers know what I mean. Right? But what if you weren't an English speaker, and you were just looking at, okay, let's look at all the usages of the word green. Right? Like, you get really confused by that sentence. Right? Because the word green, even in that one short paragraph, is getting used 3 different ways. And so that's true with biblical words also. So there are a lot of biblical words that work the same way. Or there are words that are synonyms. But since they're different words, people assume they must mean something different. It's like, no, Greek and Hebrew have synonyms too. So, yeah. So a concordance can be misleading. Now, there are good ways to use a concordance to give you data. So I think one of the most helpful books out there, if you're like me and you still use books instead of just computer search tools, is Hatch and Redpath's Concordance to the Septuagint. Because, not just because you can look up where different Greek words are used in the Greek Old Testament, which is helpful, right? You have some Greek word in the New Testament. You could go and see where that Greek word is used in the Old Testament, in the Greek Old Testament. That's super helpful information. But also, Hatch and Red Paths, you could go to a Hebrew word, and it tells you the Greek words that are used to translate it. Right? So that it can help you figure out what the Hebrew word is behind some of these Greek words that are also behind the Greek words in the New Testament. So you can get lots of helpful information out of that. But you could also use Hatch and Red Path the wrong way and say, oh, this Greek word, it always means whatever, right? That would be the same problem. But so that's why you have to be careful with concordances, and you shouldn't really use them to do theology per se. Oh, by the way, in case it didn't get through during the earlier audio problems, I am well, dogs are well. Trisha is well. That's okay. I don't mind people talking about chess.
The battle starts in 5.
I judge
4,
not my
3,
fellow nerds,
2,
regardless of the area of
1.
their nerdism.
I've seen wonders out there.
Only one team wins this. Try to make it yours.
Unless it's like anime and manga, that I judge you a little. I try not to, but I gotta be honest. It's Len. I do judge you a little. I'll pray the prayer of St. Ephraim a few more times. I have been made aware of the pseudo Stephen Clips channel on YouTube. I thought the Dutch flag with the Louisiana flag superimposed over it was funny. So I think it's obvious that it's just a function of the fact that this is the question about the oral Torah. It's just I've uploaded lots of Marvel Rivals gameplay with no voiceover. But here's the oral Torah. The fact that you have this chain of authority that begins with Moses is passed on to Joshua, then to the judges and the prophets, right? And that authority, it takes the form of making rulings on issues related to the Torah, right? There's this situation came up. How does that relate to this commandment? So there were people, judges, prophets, etc., making those rulings on matters of Torah observance and matters of theology all through the history of Israel and Judah and Judea, right? So we know they were there. Sanhedrins were there. So what's later called the oral Torah is a thing that existed, right? Just obviously, clearly, right? The question becomes, how do we determine its contents authoritatively? And so I would apply the same logic I do in terms of holy tradition in the church, meaning that the stuff that would really constitute an authoritative oral Torah is the stuff that would eventually find its way down to us. Meaning it would end up showing up in the New Testament, it would end up showing up in Second Temple literature in terms of interpretations. It would end up showing up in liturgics. It would end up showing, right? Because to me, so asking what is authoritative in terms of the judgments of those Old Covenant judges is akin to asking, how do we know what is apostolic? Right? Someone comes and says, oh, well, the apostles taught this. Like the Gnostics were doing that, right, in the second century. St. Irenaeus says, well, where did the apostles teach? What did the apostles write? Is this, found anywhere in the teachings of the people who are appointed to the position of making these distinctions by the apostles? Is this taught by the apostles themselves in their writings? If not, then it's not apostolic. Right? So we would need to see it, right? So the contents of the rest of the Old Testament after the Torah, all of those contents are essentially the oral Torah in written form. And I would include what are sometimes called the Deuterocanonicals in that. I would include significant portions of Second Temple Jewish literature in that. I would even include a lot of Christ's teaching in the Gospels in that. I missed that last bit. I don't know. What was somebody claiming about patriarchs and female altar servers? Is that ours or Oriental Orthodox? So I remember somebody was asking about Oriental Orthodox usages. I think vis-a-vis them being an obstacle to us. Yeah. So what are they saying now that our Patriarch of Alexandria did? Patriarchate of Alexandria has brought back deaconesses in certain places. Deaconess is not a female deacon. It's a separate office. Well, at least those are two good ads. I mean, if I have to see a couple of ads, I'd take WWE 2K26 and the new season of Daredevil. It's rid of a lot of the stuff they could have thrown at you. I mean, Deaconesses is running women's ministry. That's the short version, yeah. They assist the priest in ministering to women. There are various situations in which, for example, a male priest being alone with a woman in a place is not a good idea. Yes, yeah, there are multiple deaconesses in the New Testament. There were deaconesses in the early church. Everyone knows this. No one contests this. There's just certain people nowadays who want to use that as a lever and try and pretend that was something other than what it actually was. Well, deaconesses were allowed behind the iconostasis. The empress and in the Roman Empire, the Russian Empire, received the Eucharist behind the iconostasis. The female diaconate fell into disuse, we have to say, outside of convents. Throughout history, a lot of abbesses of convents have been made deaconesses for various reasons. Right, that's exactly it. So the issue isn't with deaconesses as they historically existed. It's what people are trying to use that to bring about or change in the church. But here's the thing. The number of people actually trying to do that is tiny. They have no power. They have no ability to make that happen. Okay. A lot of the pictures you see from various other countries in the world where you see something that looks like a female altar server, they don't actually serve an altar. There are places where they have young women who put on robes and do something outside the altar. Like they'll participate in it, they'll carry an icon or something in a procession after the procession leaves the altar. Like when all the people are processing around the church, they'll have the young women or girls carry some particular thing like that. Not something from the altar, not like the gospel book, but like an icon, a palm branch, well, and I'm sure there are places where different abuses have happened, right? I'm sure there are places where different abuses, but they're abuses and they're corrected, and they're not the pattern, right? Well, I don't think there's any imminent danger of us reuniting with the Oriental Orthodox. I think they're much closer. Some of them are much closer to actually reuniting with Rome, and Rome doesn't care about anything except you pledging allegiance to the Pope. So, but yeah, it falling into disuse was largely a practical thing. Practical needs in ministry changed. And so the need kind of went away. And that's why it could be deaconesses as they historically existed could be brought back by any bishop at any time if he saw a need there. But the main reason they haven't is precisely the reasons that we've been talking about in the chat. Right? They know, the bishops know that if they do that, there are going to be certain people who read that a certain way, and so that has given them pause. If you work with metal, you should get in touch with Father Patrick Cardine, who is a Western Rite priest, who's a friend of mine, and a blacksmith, who's done a lot of metal work. And I bet he not only would be willing to talk to you about it, but he could also probably give you some contacts of other Orthodox people involved in metalworking and artistic endeavors that way. Well, Patrick, I assume you got. Cardine is Cardine. I mean, you're 22, so it's going to be a struggle. Yes, that's the correct spelling of his last name. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle for a while. And so the key thing is God wants to see you struggling with it, not giving into it. And it's really important that you talk about it with a spiritual father one-on-one, where you can really open up about as much as you're comfortable with and as much as he needs, right? Exactly what kind of things are going on, what are the triggers for you in that regard, and he can help you find ways to struggle better and more effectively and more successfully against it, right? Real practical things suited to you and your life and where you are right now. But yeah, that's the overall thing. Okay, so this is going to be the last game, and you know what that means. I'm playing Adam Warlock, it looks like. That's the one I saw first. I have not played him since they gave him the power of flight. Yeah, so this may be a complete debacle. Even though I have Lord with him, you know.
I will bring peace to this universe, no matter the cost.
I think giving to GoFundMe's can absolutely be almsgiving. If you're giving them to a person in need. I mean, if they're raising money for a business endeavor or something, it's a little different. But if they're raising money for health care that they need, hey, I can fly. Yeah, I think giving to help a church rebuild would definitely count as help.
Feel the wrath! Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
Now's your last chance for tonight to get questions. Yes, I'm excited about Danhausen being in WWE. That wasn't a question in the chat, I just wanted to say it.
Judge! Jury! Executioner!
So my favorite scotch, what's the brand name? It's the Caribbean Reserve. They age it in rum barrels.
I like the cold.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
Oh yeah, baby, that's the good stuff. They've come from behind, but you can still turn this around. You're in the lead now. Try to make it last.
Yeah, I think the seminary system is Protestant nonsense, so we should abandon it. Like clergy should be trained in the churches. Preferably the churches that they're going to serve. or in churches that are going to daughter off mission churches that they're going to serve.
You're in the lead now. Try to make it last. They come from behind.
Yes, Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve.
What are you aiming at?
Yes, Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve. That is my favorite scotch.
You're in the lead now. Try to make
I
it
first had it with a good cigar with Father Joseph Lucas, who wrote that book on for Christians, getting started reading the Fathers when I went and visited him in Miami.
You're in the lead now.
Us against the world.
Us against the world. I can feel your pain.
Cosmic might.
They come from behind. But you can still turn this around. This shield should do nothing.
I have risen.
Torah commentary series has been pushed back. I'm not going to have the Atonement book done before Pascha.
Don't mess with the amazing.
So this summer I'm planning to submit to Ancient Faith the Torah book and the book after that, both this summer. And so then the Torah commentary series is going to get pushed back after those two.
I am born anew.
I put you on ice. Your team is close to
Judge, jury, executioner.
It's the grand finale.
Don't mess with the amazing.
Well, you can't expect to win them all.
Alright, thank you everybody. As usual, who knows when I will stream next? Or what evil lurks in the hearts of men? Well, that would be the shadow. And now we've got the audio stuff worked out. Next time I stream, hopefully this PS5 will hold out and won't have to fiddle with it again.